For thousands of years, the Jewish people were challenged with the problem of poverty. Jews would live in terrible hovels, terrible situations and conditions without running water, without proper food and clothing. And it's almost impossible for a Western Jew to appreciate the suffering of his forebears, because today most Jews live in very affluent societies. They have beautiful homes, they have beautiful cars, clothing, they're able to send their children to private schools. But affluence can also be a problem. And in fact, affluence can be more of a problem than poverty. And this is something that is hinted to in our parasha. We begin this week the book of Devarim. And Devarim begins with a rebuke from Moshe to the Jewish people. In fact, the book of Devarim is one long sermon that Moshe gave for approximately a month before his passing to the new generation that would come into the land of Israel. And in this rebuke, which is mostly a concealed rebuke, Moshe was very clever in how he gave it over. It wasn't in an obvious way. It wasn't in a hurtful way. It was indirect. But included in his words is a rebuke and a warning to the Jewish people when it comes to how to behave in their new home, the new home that they would enter in the land of Israel. And he goes through with them all of their different movements and travels and journeys in the wilderness. And he relates how they were stuck in the wilderness for 38 years because of the sin of the spies. In one particular verse, Moshe is commanded by Hashem to tell the Jewish people as follows. Rav lachem sov et har hazeh. You have gone around this mountain for too long. Penu lachem tzafona. It is time to turn northwards. Now, the simple meaning of this verse is that the Jewish people had been walking around in the wilderness for many, many years, and now it was time to walk northwards towards the land of Israel. But the verse can be understood somewhat differently, as the commentary of the Kli Yakar explains. Rav lachem sovet har hazeh. You have been going around this mountain for too long. Pnu lachem tzafona. Turn, not northwards, but inwards. The word tzafun means that which is concealed. In the same way, for example, that on the Pesach Seder we speak about the step called tzafun, to eat that which was concealed, the afikomen, which was put away at the beginning of the Seder. So Hashem is telling the Jewish people, you should turn inwards. You should not be a people of externalities, but a people of internalities. And in fact, at this particular point, they were passing by the territory of Edom. Edom are the descendants of Esau. And we know from the biblical account of the struggle between Jacob and Esau that these two brothers always had issues with one another. Esau always resented the fact that Jacob had taken the blessing that was destined for him. And it was particularly at this location that Hashem says to the Jewish people, you have to show your brothers Esau that you are not an external people. You're not about materialism and material products, but you are a people who are internal. And indeed, the Kli Yakar commentary points out, and it's a rebuke to the people who lived in his generation, which was a few hundred years ago in Poland. He says that Jews have a problem. If they have 100 pieces of currency, they always show off as if they have 200 pieces. If they have 200 pieces, 400 pieces. And this can create a great deal of resentment amongst their non-Jewish neighbors. And therefore the Torah says, turn inwards. Be a people of internalities. I heard once a beautiful story from Rabbi Pesach Krohn, the traveling Maggid, and it really illustrates this point. And the story is as follows. There was a couple in America, a religious couple, and they were blessed with a baby boy. But it became clear as soon as the boy was born that he was very, very small. He suffered from a growth problem. And indeed, the doctors told the parents that your son is going to be very, very small. He's going to be very short. Yes, he'll become normal. He will be a person with regular good intelligence, but he is always going to be someone who is small. And they raised their son with a great deal of love and compassion. And of course, he was teased in his school, and they called him Shorty and Pee-wee. And they would say to their son, don't worry about it. Dynamite comes in small packages. Well, even Rav Moshe Feinstein, who was the great rabbi in the previous generation, he was a very short man, and look at what he accomplished. But still, it was something that bothered the parents all of the time. The father then heard of a new treatment, a new hormone treatment that might assist in the growth of this young boy. But he wasn't 100% sure of whether he should do it or not, because there were risks, as there are in any type of medical situation. And he consulted with this doctor, and he consulted with that specialist, and eventually he was told to go to see a lady doctor in Upper New York who was known to be an expert in this new growth hormone replacement therapy. And he traveled up with his wife to upstate New York, and there he met with this non-Jewish female doctor in her office. It was a very beautiful place. It was a part of suburban New York that was very, very wealthy. And he sat down with this lady, and he went through the whole story of his son, how his son had been born small, he was teased, and they wanted to do whatever they could to make sure that he would grow at least to a regular height. And in the end, the doctor laid out what are the possibilities, what are the risks, and the father just wasn't sure whether to go ahead. So he said to this doctor, "Tell me, doctor, if it was your son, what would you do?" And something unusual happened. She began to weep. She began to cry. And she said to him, "Rabbi," he wasn't a rabbi, but he looked like a rabbi. She said to him, "Rabbi, if it was my child, I would have no choice. I live in the type of society where everything is about externalities. And therefore, if it was my child, I would have to make sure that he grow to a regular size. But you are from a people who are an internal people, a people who are not emphasized on the material. And therefore, Rabbi, I say to you, don't give this therapy to your child." The man said that he came out of that interview totally elated. Of all of his years in yeshiva, he had never heard a lesson like that, even from his teachers. That here, this non-Jewish doctor was saying that you, the Jewish people, have to be a people who are internal, not external. And that is the message of our parasha. Pnu lachem tzafona. Turn inwards. Be a people who are humble. Be a people who concentrate on the internal, on that which is important, and not on the externalities, on materialism. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.